Good evening, the time is 7 o'clock. Welcome to the program Disability Inclusion, coming to you live from the network service of Radio Nigeria. My name is Jennifer Owo, and I'm joined by Lynn Abucha, who will be my sidekick today for today's program. We are going to be taking a look at the topic.
Addressing discriminatory recruitment, employment through stakeholder oversight.
Okay, addressing
discriminatory employment that is against persons with disability, stakeholder oversight.
All right, and we have our guest for today's program, Barrister Florence Marcus, President, Amputee Coalition of Nigeria, and Dr. Ifoma Nodim, the founder of Estonia Foundation for Inclusive Health. Good evening and welcome to the program, ma'am.
Good evening, and thank you for having us.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Ifoma.
All right, we'll go on a quick break now. When we come back, the program continues. All right, it's still Disability Inclusion from the network service of Radio Nigeria, Africa's largest radio network. We now join Lynn Abucha for a news update.
Here's the news. The Albino Foundation on Wednesday called on politicians not to neglect persons with disabilities throughout their public campaign, which commences on the 28th of September 2022. This call was made during a media briefing in Abuja by the Albino Foundation on behalf of persons with disabilities. Also at the briefing, the Albino Foundation made some demands, which it said that the political parties had to meet in the interest of inclusivity. And the demands were involvement of PWDs in campaign committees set up. Campaign materials should be made in accessible formats to reach different clusters of PWDs, the visually impaired, and persons with albinism. As enshrined in the 2018 Disability Act, political parties must ensure that locations and settings for meetings and campaign activities are accessible to all PWDs, including party offices. Provision of sign language interpreters for the hearing impaired community. Provision of adequate security network for persons with disabilities during the campaign. Strengthened internal democracy, whereby political parties allow PWD members to fully participate in the activities, including running for elected positions. Political parties are expected to subsidize election costs for persons with disabilities, taking into account the socio-economic inequalities. The Nigerian Communications Commission has deployed 84 assistive information technology projects at different locations in Nigeria to support people with special needs, while supporting policies that enable disadvantaged members of the society to live a more qualitative life. The Executive Vice Chairman of the Commission, Professor Umar Dambata, disclosed this during a courtesy visit by the delegation from National Commission for Persons with Disabilities to the NCC over the weekend in Abuja, where he also restated NCC's commitment to continually support people with special needs across the country. Dambata, while receiving the NCPW team, led by the Executive Secretary, James Lalo, said the telecom regulator had always implemented initiatives aimed at ensuring digital inclusivity for all Nigerians, regardless of their circumstances. Represented by the Director of Human Capital and Administration at NCC, Osman Mala, said telecommunications sector had become the backbone of the national economy and had recorded growth from 400,000 telephone lines on the eve of sectoral deregulation in 2000 to over 208 million active telephone lines today. just as active internet subscription rose to 156 million in the last 2 decades. The EBC stated that ICT industry's contribution to the gross domestic product currently stands at 18.44%, going by the data released by the National Bureau of Statistics as at the second quarter of 2022. Additionally, Dambata said that the NCC had continued to ensure quality of service delivery to the consumers and digital inclusion for all. A pretty woman with albinism, who is also a mom of 4 cute kids with albinism, has stunned internet users. A 12 seconds video shared on TikTok captures the family showing the mother and her first to the fourth child. Although the video did not mention their father, the mom has 2 boys and 2 girls who are all with albinism. Internet users were stunned that such thing is possible, with many saying they have never seen it before. The first child is male, while the second and the third are females. The last child is still a boy who is still not as grown as others. That's the news for today.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Such a fascinating story. The mother of 4 children with albinism. So fantastic. The program is still Disability Inclusion, coming to you live from the network service of Radio Nigeria. On today's edition, we are addressing employment discrimination against persons with disabilities through effective stakeholders oversight. And we know that employment in Nigeria can be an uphill task, especially as it concerns our population and some other factors. Now, for an average Nigerian or for a person without any form of disability, you can imagine, how so much of a task this can be to actually gain employment, not to talk of persons with disabilities. So we'll be giving an opportunity to our guests to, say something about the topic for today. Once again, we have Barrister Florence Marcus, the President, Amputee Coalition of Nigeria. Good evening, ma'am, and welcome to our interview segment.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And also Dr. Ijoma Nodim, founder of Isoye Foundation for Inclusive Health. Very good evening to you, and thanks for joining us in our studio today.
Okay.
All right, so far, do you think merit system and inclusivity is adopted during recruitment process in the public service in Nigeria? This question is, to you, Barrister Florence.
I wish my answer would be in the affirmative, but unfortunately, it is not. And it's very disheartening that till now, we don't look beyond the disability. We don't look at the potentials that persons with disability have. So even when during the process of employment, they are not given those privileges. Rather, a lot of persons with disabilities have been discriminated upon when it comes to issues of employment because of their disability. Because a lot of people, a lot of these employers of labor, both in the private and the public sector, when persons with disabilities apply for these jobs, what they look at is their disability, not giving them the opportunity to first, assert themselves, and then they would judge them based on their performance. But they base them based on their looks sometimes and their disabilities. We've had instances where someone will say, how do I employ a person on a wheelchair? How can, first of all, probably the organization is not even accessible. So instead of looking at the environment and creating an atmosphere, they rather focus on the person's disability, which is very, very wrong.
Okay, now, Dr. What are some barriers to employment participation of persons with disabilities?
Some barriers,
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. One of the first things I would like to say is that the misinformation or lack of information on the part of the government concerning what accessibility means, because actually disability, the society is not able to make a place inclusive or a place where somebody can work. So one thing I would say is that the lack of knowledge on the part of the public sector and all the parties involved is one of them. And the second thing is the attitude of the public.
Mm.
The attitudinal
Of the
barrier.
public or the organization? I'm talking about an organization, the workspace. Go ahead, please.
The barriers.
Yes,
It's
yes.
part of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So the attitudinal barrier is there. Like, let me leave myself for another.
Mm.
I'm a consultant pediatrician.
Okay.
I trained at a tertiary health center, and I was one of the pioneer set of people to have passed what we call the residency program. Residency program is a 6-year program, a postgraduate program. And I think in that pioneer set, I was the only person.
Wow, this is inspiring. How did you get to that position, that point? I mean, that's very impressive. Like, how did you get there?
How I got to that point.
Yes.
That's a long story.
Please make it as brief as possible to inspire persons.
I'm hearing impaired.
Okay.
That's my hearing aid. I'm more or less deaf. So I went through medical school. I had difficulties. When I sit, I had to sit in front. I have to sit just like I'm reading your lips. I have to read it to understand.
Mm.
So when my hearing aid gets spoiled, which is done a lot of time, I have to, look for other ways, copy notes, photocopy notes from my class. That was how I went through medical school and finished. And by the grace of God too. So I now got enrolled in a postgraduate program to become a pediatrician. And that is the point where I got to.
Mm.
So finishing this, it's expectable that automatically, when the person finishes the program, you will be absorbed into the system, that is employed in the hospital as a permanent staff. But unfortunately, in my case, it was not so. For reasons which I do not know, despite being one of the first people to pass the program, it did not come to pass. I was there, when you pass, you start as a junior resident doctor. From a junior resident doctor, you pass more exams to become a senior resident doctor. Then from the senior resident doctor, become a consultant. So I was kept at the level of a senior resident doctor, despite the fact that I passed all the exams for a long time. And people that I passed before them, they were being employed. No reason was given, no particular reason was being given. So I don't know whether it's because of my disability. So this is part of what I'm talking about, the attitude. They say that these people cannot do the work.
Did you face any form of stereotype or stigma? Share your story.
Definitely.
Did you face any form of stereotype, like the attitude, not that you're talking about the attitudinal barrier? Did you face it well in this
The
pursuit?
only thing I'm talking about is the attitudinal barrier I'm talking about, like my age, maybe my colleagues, people they see angry.
Okay. All right, the program is still Disability Inclusion coming to you live from the network service of Radio Nigeria. I think Lynn has a question for you.
Yes, my question is actually for Barrister Florence. So, you know that when we are having these conversations around disability inclusion, we have an act
Yes.
that really supports us. We have an act that is more like a back end to every agitation, for every advocacy around disability inclusion. So, I want to know, what does the act say about employment for persons with disabilities?
Okay, yes. The Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act 2018 made provisions when it comes to employment for persons with disabilities. Section 28 of that act specifically, provides that a person with disability has rights to work on equal basis with others. And this includes the right to opportunity, to gain a living by work, freely chosen or accepted in labor market, and work environment that is open. So a person with disability has a right to work. In fact, the act did not end there. This, I think, section 2 of that act talks about, provided penalty for both organizations, both public organizations, private organizations, and even officials, principal officers of any company or organizations that contravenes the provisions of this act. And for public organizations, there is a penalty of 500,000, while for companies, 250,000, and for principal officers, that is 50,000. So any of these persons listed, organizations listed that contravenes, that violates the right of a person with disability to work freely, will be penalized. And it's the court that penalizes. And the law also provides that all employers of labor in public organizations shall, as much as possible, have persons with disabilities constituting at least 5% of their employment, which means that if you have 50 persons working in that organization, 5 of them must be persons with disabilities.
With what you just mentioned, I want to ask, do we have a comprehensive national statistics of employed, unemployed, and underemployed youths with disabilities in Nigeria?
The problem of data in Nigeria is something that is all encompassing. Like, I don't think the issue of data is a problem in Nigeria. That cannot be overemphasized. And I believe that when it comes to also statistics relating to persons with disabilities, it's the same thing. I don't think I have never, stumbled against any, and I'm not aware of any that has been conducted. I'm not aware.
Okay, talking about the act, we know that yes, if they are defaulters, they can actually invoke the power from the act.
Yes.
Now, for a person, let's say a person on wheelchair,
Yes.
he doesn't have the money, he's not connected. Probably he's not even in Abuja. He's maybe in his village, and he was discriminated against in terms of employment. What can he do? He doesn't have the money to approach a lawyer. He probably knows that, okay, this act is in existence. What can he do? Where can he report?
Okay. Where there is a right, there is a remedy. Okay. When it is violated, there is a remedy. The courts are there. There are organizations that you can go to. No, sometimes in Nigeria, we just look at, lawyer, I have to go and pay lawyer. We have the National Commission of Persons with Disabilities. The person can approach the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. And I believe that the commission have mechanisms in place that can assist that person. In the local, we have the Legal Aid Council. They are in each local government. When you have issues like that, approach the Legal Aid Council. They can go to court on your behalf. And even the lawyers we're talking about, there are a lot of lawyers that do pro bono legal services. We have the Association of Lawyers with Disabilities in Nigeria, of which I'm a member. And I know our organization will be, more than happy to go to court on issues like this. This law must be enforceable. And for this law to be enforceable, we have to start testing it. We have to go to court. We have to test the veracity of this law. So when a person's right is violated, he shouldn't just sit down. Gone were the days when persons like Dr. Ijoma, persons like me, I face that kind of discrimination too. In a very big organization, the lady in the legal department said, how would they employ how would they take somebody like this in the legal department? How can she work? You're talking about someone who has gone to primary school as a person with disability, secondary school, university, law school, and you're now asking how would the person cope? First ask, if the person could cope in school, why won't the person cope in employment? Gone were the days that people like us suffered in silence because all things like this were not in the open. But persons with disabilities are more organized now. There is a legal framework that is protecting their rights. There is an organization set by government. There are individuals who are willing to protect their rights. So they can approach some of these to ensure that their rights are being enforced.
All right, I think it's time to call out the phone lines. 0915 0482 is the number to call, or 0705 149 3324. Take those numbers again: 0915 091 0482 or 0705 149 3324. They're taking a look at employment discrimination against persons with disabilities. through effective stakeholders oversight. Do stay with us as we go on this quick break.
So you talk about our scholarship, Dr. Ijoma.
Yeah, yes,
Dr. Ijoma is leaving for London tomorrow.
you want to talk about it like
Okay,
because
we'll
we want to
talk
talk about
we'll
it
talk
the other time
about
that
our
he came because
scholarship.
study, then we get to talk about it.
We'll talk about because we want to talk about the
Yes,
persons with
please.
disabilities in place.
I can't pick that well. So when we come back, we talk about the scholarship.
Okay, Miss
Yeah, so all these statistics and how 5 persons with disabilities in Nigeria.
All right, welcome back. I think that Barrister Florence Marcos and Dr. Ijoma Nodin actually came with what I call moral boosters for the community of persons with disabilities, and I think it's actually best they tell us by themselves. Please, Barrister Ijoma, Barrister Florence.
Okay, I would like Dr. Ijoma. You see, we are giving you barrister, we are making you barrister on top of your consultants and all. So I think Barrister Ijoma should speak on our behalf.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, let me start, and I think she's going to, just like I said, persons with disabilities have great potentials. Don't undermine them, don't underrate them. Two of us sitting here are a testament of that. Um, Even though Dr. Ijoma is a consultant pediatrician, I'm a lawyer, been a lawyer for more than 14 years, almost 14 years now. We have not stopped learning. We have not stopped, improving on ourselves. Recently, we have been choosing for the Chivlin Scholarship to go study in the UK. As a matter of fact, Barrister Ijoma is already on her way to London tomorrow. So, that's to tell us that there is no limit to what persons with disabilities can achieve once they have set their minds to achieve it. It will interest you to know that the Chivlin Scholarship is a very prestigious scholarship. Over 58,000 people all over the world applied for that scholarship from almost 170 countries, and only 1,500 were selected. And in Nigeria, over almost 9,000 people applied, and only 44 persons were selected. And do you know that among these 44 persons, 5 of us are persons with disabilities? We have a person with visual impairment, a person that is deaf. We have 2 persons on wheelchair, and myself being an amputee. What else do you want what else do you want us to tell you, in order to convince you that persons with disabilities have what it takes? We are talking about 5% when it comes to employment. For this scholarship, over 5% of us got the scholarship slot for Nigerians. So I want to encourage persons with disabilities out there. Don't sit at home. Don't allow anybody to undermine you. Do your best. I can't go and study in the UK and come back tomorrow and somebody, sitting somewhere will say, no, because she is using a prosthetics or because she cannot hear without her hearing aids, she shouldn't be given that slot or that employment. We are going global, and every person with disabilities have the potential to do this.
All right, 0915 is the number to call, or 0705 149 3324. 0705 149 3324. Those are the numbers to call on the program Disability Inclusion. Hello, good evening. Hello. Kindly call us back 0915 091 82 or 0705 149 3324. Now, Barrister Florence, what you said about self-development and improvement, persons with disabilities who are unable to support themselves become financially trapped, in a poverty circle. What are the advantages of self-employment, self-development, self-improvement, and how can it contribute to changing the narrative and perception of persons with disabilities from a charity dimension?
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, can you hold
Disability.
your answer to that question? We have a caller. Hello, good evening. Good evening, Kenny Wonders. Thanks for joining us today. Fine, thank you. We are talking about employment discrimination. Yeah, go ahead, please. Okay, okay, thank you. Mm. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ganindu. Thank you. You've made lots of valid points. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much. 0915 091 0482 or 0705 149 3324. Barrister Florence, what would be your reaction to what the caller said?
Okay, yeah, I actually agree with what the caller said, but before he called, you mentioned something, and I want to relate here.
Mm.
Gone were the days when we look at disability, when we look at the charity or concentrate on the charity model of disability.
Mm.
Now we are talking about rights. Disability rights are human rights. Persons with disabilities are not seeking for sympathy or are not seeking for ways that just give him the job so he could eat. No, we don't mind, employ persons with disabilities who are capable, employ persons with disabilities who merit that job. We're talking about merit. Create an enabling environment where they can compete. Yes, it is competitive, but create the enabling environment where they can compete with their equals. You cannot, organize an interview and bring someone who is deaf, who wants to work, who has the potentials to work in that environment and not have a sign language interpreter. You should not organize an interview on a 10-story building without an elevator and expect a person on wheelchair to compete. when the environment is, accessible, because that's when the environment is accessible, you go, you have the opportunity to compete with others. And on merit, we employ persons with disabilities. And when you talked about self-employment, it is very, yes, it has to also do with the development that you mentioned earlier. The issue of self-development can never be overemphasized for persons with disabilities. They must develop themselves so that when they are discriminated upon, they have the basis for which they can protest. They have a basis for which they can, either approach the court or be able to claim issues of discrimination.
All right, we're moving right ahead to what the topic for today is about. We're getting deep into the subject matter. We're talking about employment discrimination against persons with disabilities through effective stakeholder oversight. We'll go on the music break now. And when we come back, Disability Inclusion Program continues.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So, the last part, the credit, myth. I've given myth and listen to Lynn. So I guess you will read it. But anyway, when we are done, we'll see to talk.
Okay. So maybe you should tell her that she read it.
Yes, I want that interaction so that you don't take everything.
Okay.
And it will be too much for you.
Okay.
Yes. And then the credit line, I will get their names out.
I already have the student manager, the engineer. I don't know.
And that's exactly. I'm going to get their names.
Okay.
Thank you. Then I gave you the link and then the start.
Are you listening to?
I like the song. It's a song I cover. Let us have one of ordinary people.
So maybe I sang in the song. Do you have a question? I should just continue. Just continue. Let us have a world of ordinary people living like the way God wants us to. Definitely. It's not only God that wants us to live in a world filled with happiness and prosperity. The law also states that, of course, a world filled with equity, equality, justice, and inclusivity. The program is still Disability Inclusion, coming to you live from the network service of Radio Nigeria. A song by Kobams Asukwo titled Ordinary People. Hope that song was able to pass the message across to you. As the program continues, we are taking a look at employment discrimination against persons with disabilities through effective stakeholders oversight. My name is Jennifer Owo, your host on today's program, and we have two lovely ladies who are our guests for today's program. I have Dr. Ijoma Nordin, the founder of Isoya Foundation for Inclusive Healthcare, and Barrister Florence Marcus, the president of Amputee Coalition of Nigeria. And I do not want them to be doing this talking alone. Kindly call the numbers 0915 091 0482 0915 091 0482 0705 149 3324. We're talking about the labor market in Nigeria, employment ratio in Nigeria. So, what do you think about the topic for today, especially as it concerns persons with disabilities? 0915 091 0482 or 0705 149 3324. Barrister Florence, talking about the role of stakeholders, in all of these things, talking about employment, discrimination against persons with disabilities, the role of stakeholders. Okay, we have a caller. Hello, good evening. Hello, hello. Who do we have on the line? Good evening, sir. What's your name and location, please? Please, can you step away from your radio set so we don't have hitches in the studio? Thank you so much. Mr. Henry, what do you have for us? Okay. Mm. Was he a person with disability? Fantastic. Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Okay. Yes, that is what we talk about. Inclusivity in all sphere. Mm. Mm. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Harris. Sorry, I didn't get your location. Where are you calling us from? Okay, thank you so much. Valid points, he made there. I mean, he talked about the death of vocational centers, and Barrister Florence earlier mentioned the need for self-development, for self-employment. I mean, a one-time American president actually said, "Think of what you can do for yourself, know what your country can do for you every time." So there is so far, the government can go in making everybody, including persons with disabilities, now employable. So, what's the role of stakeholders now, any other person, to resurrect, the death of vocational centers, technical schools in Nigeria?
I must say that this comment is kind of restrictive.
Okay.
It's like I'm a very good artist. I can draw anything, but I'm a doctor.
Mm.
So it is not mutually exclusive for somebody to be creative and also be a professional. You get me? And I also want to mention that like all of them must not go to college of education or technical school or vocational school. So the issue of the death of vocational institutions is actually trying to streamline.
No, but there are some people that want to do handwork. Like they don't know how to stay in the confinement of an office space. Like they want to actually be their own boss. And just like the last caller said, most of these vocational centers, most of these skill technical centers now, or even schools, are declining. They don't even have the technical, the facilities, the equipment now, especially as it concerns persons with disabilities. Make sure that they learn these skills as a professional. As far as I'm concerned, as an artisan, if you're good at what you do, you're a professional. So he's talking about the death of some of all these vocational centers. What's the role of the stakeholders in resurrecting this issue, this challenge?
Yeah, just like she's saying, because I think she's still trying to make a point.
Okay.
Yeah, he said something like they're better off on creativity, on art, and all of that. That is stereotype. That is
No, they are not
stereotype.
better
Yeah.
off.
No, that was what he was trying to say.
Okay.
And what we are trying to say is that persons with disabilities can do whatever. Let's not streamline it to just creativity. If we're talking about empowering persons with disabilities, it should be all encompassing, for God's sake. Just like she mentioned, all of us, every other person can learn handwork and do, but other persons would not just, we shouldn't just insist that persons with disabilities must go, because that has always been the mindset of a lot of people and a lot of parents. Instead of taking persons with disabilities who would have done better in other fields, in other professions, feel that, oh, we should just let them go and learn how to make mud, or let them go and, no, it's beyond that. Let us not think about just that. We're talking about employment now. We are talking about giving them opportunity, to participate in employment, especially as many of them, that have developed themselves, that have gone to school. So I don't think it will be nice when we just narrow it to issues of no, every other person. We can all do other things, but I think we should not deviate from the fact that we are talking about something that is provided for by an act of the federal government, which is inclusivity when it comes to employment, providing persons with disabilities with employment. We should not deviate from that and talk about self-employment. No, we shouldn't deviate from that.
All right, 0915 091 0482. Our conversation is getting really heated up. Call us because we have limited time before we call this program a wrap. 0915 091 0482 or 0705 149 3324. We're talking about employment discrimination against persons with disabilities through effective stakeholders oversight.
So I actually learned that President Buhari has lifted the employment embargo on
Yes.
yes,
Yes,
like
yes.
on federal government MDAs, something like that. So at this point, what would be your advice to the federal government in terms of employment of persons with disabilities?
Yes, my advice to the federal government is to implement the law to its letter. The law provides that persons with disabilities should constitute at least 5% of the workforce. And if we have persons with disabilities that are qualified, to give them the opportunity. That is all that I have to say on that.
I think it was captured though.
Yeah.
Main thing is doing, and also to make the workplace accessible for
Create
people
an
with
environment.
disabilities.
Now, and let's talk about decent working environment. How can stakeholders advocate for the right to decent work for persons with disabilities as stipulated in international legal standard?
We have the Labour Congress. Is that how they call it?
International Labour
Yes,
Organization.
we have the. No, I'm talking about the Nigeria, the Labour House. What do they call them? Yes, the Nigerian Labour Congress. We have other unions. See, this issue when it comes to disability should not just be left for persons with disabilities to advocate. All hands must be put on deck to ensure, because we have workplace hazard that is making a lot of persons with disabilities who are even already in the employment, to develop disability. So what do you do at that point? If you are one of those persons that said, no, I don't want her to work here because she's a person with disabilities, tomorrow you become a person with disability, would you go back home and stay? So they have to, advocate for policies that create an enabling environment for persons with disabilities that are coming in, for persons with disabilities that are working in that environment, and even for persons who, would later acquire disability or who acquire disability while in their employment. So it's not only for persons with disabilities to advocate, but every other stakeholders, especially the Nigerian Labour Congress, must, as a matter of importance, advocate for an inclusive workplace for persons with disabilities.
All right, we're going on another break now. When we come back, we talk more on employment discrimination against persons with disabilities, the role of the stakeholders. Please stay with us. No, it's fine. Is it time?
So when you come back, you announce the myth, that of myth. These are the engineers.
And when we come back, I should go straight to the mission.
Yes. Then she will introduce you.
Okay.
So are you taking it alone?
Can I?
No, I think both of you can take
Let's just
it.
give it. Okay. So how are we doing it? Are you taking the meat out? Taking the fat?
No, to make it interactive like we said last week. So you just follow me. Cue.
Okay.
So I take the meat, you take the fat.
They say, is there a link for this
You have a
program?
link for this one.
After the program. Many thanks for staying tuned. The program is still Disability Inclusion, coming to you live from the network service of Radio Nigeria, Africa's largest radio network. My name is Jennifer Owo, your host, and we've had two lovely ladies talking about our focus for today, which is addressing employment discrimination against persons with disabilities through stakeholders oversight. And I want to thank them especially for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, we have some information for you. Hello, Lynn. Are you ready?
Hi, Jennifer.
All right, so wheelchair use is confining. It's actually a myth now by some people. People who use wheelchair are wheelchair bound. Is that true?
No.
Okay.
The fact is, a wheelchair, like a bicycle or an automobile, is a personal assistive device that enables someone to get around.
Now, non-disabled people like myself are obligated to take care of people with disability. Is that
No.
a mandatory
No.
factor?
The fact is this: anyone may offer assistance, but most people with disabilities prefer to be responsible for themselves. No pity party. Yeah.
All right. Now, the lives of people with disabilities are totally different than the lives of people without disability. Like a person without disability, should he or she see himself as being special or more preferred than a person with disability?
And the fact remains that persons with disabilities, they go to work, they get married, they have families, they do laundry, they go to the grocery shops, they laugh, they cry, they pay taxes, they get angry, they have prejudices, they vote, they plan, and they dream like every other person.
So, in other words, we are the same.
The
Whether-
same.
Mm.
The same. No discrimination whatsoever.
That's interesting to know. Now, persons with disabilities need help. Like people say, okay, they need help, or it's like they see them as, from a pity party point of view, from a charity point of view. Is that true?
So many persons with disabilities, they don't always need help. They're independent and capable of helping, giving help to themselves. If you would like to help someone with a disability, ask if he or she needs it before you act, to avoid what I call pity party.
So if you see a person with disability, for instance, what should be the first thing? What should be the first picture in your mind?
So the thing is, when you see a person with disability struggling with something, you have to ask like a normal person, can I help? So when you rush the person, the person will feel like, okay, you're trying to pity me, and nobody wants to feel that way. Oh, I'm being pitied. No, that's not.
Now,
what it is.
Barrister Florence and Dr. Ijoma, with what we've said, like, how do you feel like as a person with disability? I'm seeing you for the first time, and I'm thinking, okay, you might probably need any form of help. How do you feel at that point in time? All right. I think we'll go to the next myth. There is nothing one person can do to help eliminate the barriers confronting people with disabilities. Is that true, Lynn?
No, that's not true. What we need is actually a collective effort. Everyone can contribute to change. You can help remove the barrier. It's a collective responsibility of all Nigerians to help.
Okay, so you're about saying something, Barrister Florence.
Yes, I said every other person needs help, whether you're a person with disability or a person without disabilities. But it depends on you if you want my help or if I need your help. So you can't just come to me because I'm on a wheelchair, you start pushing me. Do you know where I'm going? Do you know whether I have someone with me? So I think it's good for us to be cautious, like just courtesy, a little courtesy, please, may I help you? And that will solve a lot of the problems. And don't just assume that because a person is walking on crutches, you are giving him ₦1 because you feel he's poor. He may be richer than you. Thank you.
Okay, so what are your final words now for today's program?
Okay, can we start with the final one?
I want to appreciate the spotlight on people with disabilities and their access to employment. And I think we should have more programs like this where we create awareness and make things more accessible. I think I want to thank the Radio Nigeria for this very informative program. And I hope the government is going to implement the Disability Act to the letter. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a few things to say when it comes to employment for persons with disabilities to make it in line with the provisions of the law. The principle of non-discrimination should be entrenched by all organizations, and employers may include employment opportunity statement in their recruitment procedures. You are recruiting, you can tell persons with disabilities, encourage them to also apply. And government may collaborate with employers, organizations, and relevant organizations of persons with disabilities and advertising associations to attract, applicants and job seekers with disabilities. I will also encourage that government should assist employers of persons with disabilities. They can give them tax rebates when you know that this organization is good, to encourage them to employ more persons with disabilities. And for persons with disabilities, I will say, please don't relent. Don't, because they discriminate upon you, go and sit down at home and be whining. No. Look for something to do. Develop yourself consistently. Make yourself relevant in that organization. The lady that discriminated upon me on the last day of leaving that office, she said, wow, I am glad that, I'm surprised that you are this hardworking. So I proved her wrong. Prove them wrong by being productive. Thank you.
All right, so we'll be taking our star of the week. So our stars are actually for this program, the stars of the week are actually people that challenge disability. Persons with disabilities, what they've challenged, they've actually made something out of their lives despite being with disability. So our star of the week this week is Adebolu Adejobi. He is a cerebral palsy patient and an advocate for children with or without disability. He emerged the overall best student in WAEC 2021 at Ajayi Crowther Memorial Senior Grammar School. He aspires to go into the medical field because he wants a first-hand experience of what many people with disabilities face, relate more with patients, and give hope to people out there. Adebolu also wants to study biomedical engineering because he believes he can build a lot of equipment for persons with disabilities to make their lives easier. According to him, disability cannot kill you or stop you from being who you are. It's now up to you to get up, buckle up, embrace yourself with a lot of courage. We wish our star of the week, Adebolu Adejobi, well in his future endeavors.
All right, many thanks, Lynn. This is where we call it a wrap on today's edition of the program Disability Inclusion, which came to you live from the network service of Radio Nigeria. We are on all social media platforms. At the Albino Foundation, our website is www.albinofoundation.org. Many thanks to the engineers in duty led by Christy Hankeli and Adeyemi Solomon, and also to the producer Stephen Isabo. Many thanks, and the studio manager is actually Mahmoud Abdullahi. Many thanks, Mr. Mahmoud. This program is powered by the European Union and the Albino Foundation. Special thanks to other team of producers who worked behind the scene, Mr. George Dominic Awai, and also to my co-host here, Lynn Abucha. Thank you so much, Lynn.
Thank you, Jennifer.
All right, do have a splendid weekend. My name still remains Jennifer Ogo. Bye for now.